Warning, if you get dizzy, seasick, and you don't like FPV racing or freestyle, this video is not for you. Some users may experience IBS. Welcome back to the channel, guys. We have a brand new FPV 5-inch racing quad that came out this week from Geprc. Super happy to have this one because it's built a little bit smaller than some of the other racing quads out there, around 210. This one's 208 millimeter wheelbase on here. It has 2207 2050 kV motors, and these are SpeedX branded. They look super duper nice. We've got some Gym fan props that we're going to run on here today, and we're going to test it on a 6S 1200 milliamp battery. It does weigh in around 270 grams, so it's a little lighter than some of the other quads out there that are bind and fly, quote unquote race quads. We have a 400 milliwatt rad VTX that's sitting just in front of my TBS Crossfire antenna. I've got a TPU turtle mount, a little spike on the top of it. It kind of looks like a little shark fin. We have a RunCam 4 on there as well, with tons of shroud on the front for TPU protection. And it looks like we're locked into about 30 degrees worth of tilt, so I'm imagining this thing is gonna totally rip. We also have a brand new flight controller on here with a USB-C connector right here. This is the Taker F7, so I'm interested to see how that works out. And we have a 2-up stack here as well. That is 55 amp ESCs with a brand new antenna in the back. It's a little stubby antenna, and you will see that with these FPV race style quads because we're not trying to go way out there with this one. We're just trying to rip close in and win the race. So let's see how it performs on a 6S 1200 together, and we'll come back to the bench and I'll show you all of the kind of design features that Geprc put into this one. I think it's going to be pretty cool because it does also have a single bolt arm release. So if you're in a race, you need to repair an arm super quick, one bolt, boom, the whole arm comes off, put a new arm on, and you're good to go. So let's go head outside now and let's do some ripping together. We'll come back to the bench afterwards. Here we go. Okay, let's test fly the Geprc RACER. I'm using a 6S 1200 milliamp battery today, and it's a pretty good power to weight ratio. I don't think that my VTX is set to 500 because I'm seeing a little bit of breakup here, but the RACER 4 cam looks pretty decent as far as color and saturation, brightness, contrast, and all that jazz. I'm not used to flying analog. It's been a while, and I'm not used to kind of the breakup, the momentary breakup that I'm getting, and it's likely I'm gonna get some breakup. I'm running a stubby today, and generally out in front of you in a race situation, that's fine. It's not really meant to go around trees and things like that, but look how fast this dive is compared to an FPV freestyle quad. It's much faster already, zipping over the trees. My punch out, it's pretty amazing. I'm gonna show you some punch outs, and look down at the bottom right of the screen. You see that little number that raises from 0 and goes up? That is my throttle percentage. So I want you to notice in this flight test that I barely ever go to 100%, and the quad is still this fast. I mean, I'm ripping about 33% there across the parking lot and back this direction, already back on the other side of the parking lot at like 40% at the maximum throttle there. So at a cruise, I'm able to cruise around 25% throttle, which is kind of cool. So it feels great on the big giant kind of obstacles, like a giant 70-foot tree. It has plenty of speed there, and it kind of throws you off for how big the tree actually is because of the speed of the quad. When I'm flying freestyle on a tree that large, it seems like it floats forever. This quad doesn't have a lot of float. It just wants to rip and go super fast. I'm just doing a couple yaw snaps there with a couple spins. I would say that the tune on here, you could probably increase these rates if you want to. If you're an intermediate racer, you're probably gonna leave them about the same, because I feel like they have a good tune on here as far as kind of ripping around things, making some quick snap yaw turns around the trees and back through. So, I actually snagged a branch right there. And it has just a little bit of hang time. But again, like around and over and down the trees, much, much faster than your typical freestyle drone, with much more speed at the bottom right there, just ripping. And I love the way the yaw snap works out on this quad. It's super fast. It'll turn on a dime. And again, like ripping around this parking lot right here, coming up to about 30% throttle at the max. I love the way this quad looks low and low to the ground. it just looks so fast, because it is. You know, we're rocking probably about a 30-degree angle on our run RACER Nano 4. And again, that's a waterproof FPV racing camera, so that's pretty good. If I land in some wet grass during a race, I'm not going to blow this camera out, which is great. It has a pretty high voltage range. I think the image looks pretty good. It's a little bit overcast today, but let's go back in. This was a fun flight test, super fast. All right, guys, welcome back from the flight test. This is the box you get. And again, this is the Geprc RACER FPV racing drone, they call it. It starts in around $300. It goes all the way up to about $374.99. I have the TBS Nano RX version. You can also get the ELRS version or the PNP version. And they have two different types of motor setups you can get. You can get the Geprc 2207 motors, and you can also get the T-Motor F60 Pro motors. So you can check those out. It raises the cost a little bit, but might make this quad go even faster. Okay, inside the box, you get a lot of extras. You get some brand new stickers. I've never seen these before, and they have labels on each of the quads, so that's kind of cool. A Geprc 20x220 strap. You also get a setup guide here for Betaflight and which way the props go, ELRS configuration, and TBS crossfire setup in Betaflight. You get a safety notice card, two different color Geprc stickers, carbon fiber keychain, support card, wrench, Allen wrenches, as well as a 3M sticky bed. As well, for an extra one, you get two of those in the box and a support card, as well as a disclaimer and some extra gem fan props. I got two sets in the box. The dry weight on the Geprc RACER is 290.5 grams without a battery. With a 6S 1300, that's going to get you up to around 491 grams. Adding a GoPro to the equation is going to get you way up there at 644.4 grams, but still lighter than most FPV freestyle drones. But how does that make me feel as far as what you get in the box, the price of this quad? I know there's a lot of quads out there right now in the $300 price point, and this was an analog, so it's not DJI on there, and you're getting this quad with DJI for around $300. There are quads out there that you can get with DJI on board for around that price, $300 to $400 these days. So this is an expensive analog quad, but I think the performance out of the box, it's pretty impressive, and it's lighter weight than a lot of the FPV freestyle quads out there. So if you want to have something that's kind of made smaller, more nimble, fast, and on analog with up to 400 milliwatt VTX on board and some pretty sick ripping 2207 motors, I think this is not a bad choice. So in my opinion, yeah, it's worth the money, as well as the tune on here. It seems that it's been tuned by the team at Geprc. They do have a race team, so this one comes out of the box ready to rip with zero vibes in the camera view. I had a great time with the tune, and I had no shutter even in the fastest movements and quick dives that I did around the field today, which is pretty impressive. Now under these 2207s, we have kind of a minimal setup down here. We only have 3 bolts holding the motor on, and we seem to not have a little motor protector piece of carbon coming out off the end, which I've seen on pretty much any quad out there. They shaved off a little bit of weight there. They reduced the thickness of the arms as well, and they only have 1 bolt release on these arms. So if we release this bolt, loosen up that middle one just a little bit, it's going to pull this whole thing out. You can replace an arm pretty quick with 1 bolt release. So aside from a very minimal build on here and high power motors, we also have a 2mm carbon top plate, 2mm bottom plate, and they have 5mm arms on this quad. But if you notice, just look a little bit closer to this stack. We also have a front to back 70-75 aircraft aluminum style brace on the bottom of this. And this comes in 2 colors. I have the red one. It also comes in white as well, with a little bit of white accent on there. And you can also see those 775 aluminum standoffs. There's 4 of those to release this top plate, which gets you to your stack super easy. And once you release those 4 M3 bolts, you can take the top plate off. And I love the fact that it does have a little M2 bolt right here, so you don't ever have to take the fin off if you don't want to get to the stack. That's kind of cool. Now, if we look a little closer right here, it's kind of cool because when I first took the top off, I was like, oh, Is there two receivers in here? No, this is the tiny rad 400 milliwatt VTX right next to my TBS Crossfire Nano receiver. They both have UFL connectors, and this goes back to the Pinot style kind of stubby antenna in the back here. So we have a little TPU mount for that, and just underneath that we have our capacitor and our XT60 cable. And just underneath that tiny VTX, we have a little tray there for the VTX to sit on, so it keeps it separate from the flight controller. And under that is an F722 flight controller. It's F722 SE, and it's labeled the Taker. It also has a USB-C port, which I like a lot, MPU 6000 on board, and it has 32-bit 4-in-1 ESCs, and those are 55 amp, creating kind of a 2-up stack here. So if you fry your FC, you don't have to replace both at once. It's not an AIO, so it is separate stack, which is great for FPV racing if you do have a crash and you break something. Tucked underneath this TPU mount in the front that goes to these two side posts, we have the RunCam Nano 4. If you haven't heard about this camera, it's pretty awesome for racers. It has low distortion lens on here, giving us about 97 degrees field of view for vertical angle. So it's going to give you a much better straight ahead shot for when you're really ripping through the course and you want to see what's next. It also has a voltage range up to about 36 volt, which is pretty impressive. And it's also waterproof. So if you land in the grass and it's a little bit wet that day on the race, you're not going to fry this camera with a little bit of moisture. It can also be switched to widescreen and 4:3, and it's 1200 TVL. And if you killed this camera, it's about $35 to replace. And one other thing that's cool about the Nano 4 is it does have a built-in lighting track mode, which makes it great to fly at night. If you're flying around LED gates, you're not going to get blown out and it's not going to look overexposed. So I think this quad overall is pretty good news for most people out there looking for something that's analog, that rips, because it seems the focus these days has been anything and everything DJI. And finally, we see an analog quad come down the pipe, and they're not even offering this one in a DJI version. So if you're on DJI, you're going to figure out a way to put an AIO in here, maybe slap an 03 in, or decase a Caddx Vista to fit. There's not a lot of room in here, so I don't really see that happening. It's going to be a tough fit if you decide to do that. But if you keep it as is and fly it like this, I think most people that buy it will end up loving it. It does fly great. It looks cool. It's ultra lightweight. And I would almost fly this as a freestyle quad, but it's so ridiculously fast that it doesn't fly like a freestyle quad. It doesn't have the same sort of type of float that you get with a freestyle quad. A freestyle quad probably weighs an extra 80 grams. Depending on what you slap on here for your full takeoff weight, but it has been trimmed down, slimmed down. It's fast, lean, and mean, and I think the performance on the motors with the tune, it works perfect. And so I gotta say, 2 thumbs up to the guys at Geprc who tuned this for you guys. It's definitely well worth the $300. If you want to check out our link down below, please do that. This one is a ripper. It is a Lambo. It's a supercar, and it's finally something analog, you guys. Come on, we've been waiting for this. I know a lot of you guys have been sitting out there kind of like waiting for any analog review to come along, and here it is. So I hope you liked it today, and if you liked it, please do subscribe on the channel. Check out our Discord, and also get in our Facebook group for FPV West, because we do have a local event now. If you're someone who's brand new to FPV, racing, or freestyle, come on out and fly with us. Meet me and hang out with the other guys and make some friends and some new connections in the drone community. Guys, take care. I'm Justin Davis, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.